Hungary, Ireland, Japan, South Korea, Lithuania, Spain, Togo, Trinidad, and Tobago. On behalf of our community, thank you for being here today, representing a cross-section of nations around the world. We know who our friends are. God bless. Thank you. We've asked two members of the diplomatic corps this morning to represent their countries, more broadly, the diplomatic efforts around the world to make it a more peaceful place. First, it's my honor to invite Carmel Halevi, who will deliver her remarks on behalf of the State of Israel. Carmel.
Shalom, everyone. Thank you for being here today. First and foremost, I want to welcome Holocaust survivors who are with us here today. You are our national treasures. I also want to acknowledge the survivors of the October 7th massacre and their families whose loved ones are still being hostage in Gaza or got murdered. You are our heroes. I want to recognize the leadership of the Simon Wiesenthal Center and the Museum of Tolerance for their partnership and hosting today's ceremony. Today marks International Holocaust Remembrance Day. 79 years ago, on January 27, 1945, Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration and extermination camp was liberated. My beloved grandmother was at that camp for a short period of time during the Holocaust. My grandmother was born in Budapest, Hungary, in 1925. Growing up, she suffered from anti-Semitism in school, on campus, and on the streets. Jew hatred that eventually led to the Holocaust. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, from ashes, the State of Israel, the one and only Jewish state, was re-established to ensure and to promise never again. Never again is not a slogan. It is a promise we are tasked with fulfilling. It is a call for action to face the past, to acknowledge the present, and to ensure a safe future for all humanity. On October 7th, we were brutally reminded by the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust of the necessity for a strong state of Israel. In 1939, my grandparents didn't have a state nor a country to protect them. What we are seeing unfold since then, in media, on campuses, and on the streets, screams loud and clear, never again is now. I am a daughter, a granddaughter, and I am part of a global sisterhood that will not be silent. Who could have imagined that even today our sisters were murdered, sexually abused, and still brutally suffering at the hand of the Hamas terror regime? Citizens of more than 30 nations were murdered. Some of the countries are represented here today. And I know by your presence that for you as well, never again is relevant today as it was 79 years ago. As my grandmother used to say, the birth of her grandchildren was her answer to the horrors of the Holocaust. I'm proud to be here today as a woman, as a reserve captain in the IDF, and as an Israeli diplomat. Israeli diplomats who proudly represent my country. I want to thank all of you who came here today. I want to thank the United States for their strong allyship and all of the supporting countries who have stood by us during our darkest time. Thank you.
Kol hakavod, Carmel. Dvarim hayotzim min halev nichnasim el halev. Words delivered from the heart and to the heart. Our next speaker represents a country that is inexorably tied to the Jewish people. We're talking about Germany of 2024, a country that has emerged in the last few months as a major friend and ally of Israel, especially since October 7th. And we should recognize that even as we struggle with the increasing anti-Semitic hate crimes from Berlin to Burbank, it's my privilege and honor to ask the Consul General, Andreas Hasse, to please come and address the group that's here this morning.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Cooper. And all of you will notice that I indeed feel like a sister to Carmel, because my words will refer sometimes to the same thinking. Esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, back in Berlin, I live pretty much in the center of the city. Every single morning when I make my way to work at the Foreign Office, I pass by the Holocaust Memorial not far from the Brandenburg Gate. And every single morning when I pass by the memorial, there is one thing that pops up in my mind right away, and that is never again. Never again, that phrase, of course, automatically makes me remember the horrors of the Holocaust and fills me with deep, deep sadness for every single victim of the Holocaust. But the concrete slabs at the memorial in Berlin and the phrase never again also automatically have another effect on me. They reinforce determination, a resolve of the strongest kind. Germany and its people will not allow anything like that ever to happen again. It is that determination which made thousands and thousands of Germans protest last weekend, all over the country, in big cities like Berlin or Hamburg, and in smaller places too. We wanted to show the world that for us, never again, just like Carmel said, is not just a phrase, but a call to action. To speak up against anti-Semitism and racism, stand the ground for democracy, put actors into place who try to undermine and poison our system and beliefs. Today, we are gathered here to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust and remember all those who Hamas has been holding hostage in Gaza since the barbaric act of terrorism on 7th of October. On that day, Hamas attacked innocent civilians in Israel in the most brutal way, tortured, murdered, and kidnapped them. The suffering, grief, and trauma of the victims who survived the attack go far beyond anything that any of us dares to imagine. And Hamas hasn't stopped. They made it very clear that their ultimate goal is to destroy Israel. Israel has the right to defend itself against this, in line with the rules of international law, and to protect its people. For Germany, Israel's right to existence can and never will be up for debate. I truly hope with all my heart that those who Hamas is holding hostage will soon be released and reunited with their families and loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel General. One of the most wonderful aspects of working at the Simon Wiesenthal Center Museum of Tolerance is the opportunity to pursue what we call here multi-faith outreach. And some people we've found allies in far reaches of Asia, some around the corner. But one of the most dynamic partners and friends that we have is a young man named Omar Kudrat, who's a lawyer, a great American patriot, served his country, and the founder of the Muslim Coalition for America. When he heard about today's program, he asked if he can come up from the San Diego area and express his solidarity with the hostages and the community. My good friend Omar, please.
It's an honor to be here, Rabbi Cooper, the Muslim's favorite rabbi, the Muslim choice. It's an honor to be here on this solemn day and in this hallowed place, the Museum of Tolerance. I remember coming here, being born and raised in LA and being in high school and having experienced this museum myself and the profound impact it had on me throughout my entire life. I'll never forget it. I also want to recognize and extend a message to the Holocaust survivors who are here today, the survivors of October 7th, their families, and a prayer for the families who will not have a family member coming home. And the message from Muslim Coalition for America and all the Muslims across the nation in our coalition is this: never again. We're part of the team with you. If we're going to rely on just looking at TV and social media, you will see that there are many Muslims in this country who are just on the wrong side, not just of history, but they're on the wrong side of their own religion. We represent change, and we're bringing change to this country. And so it's not just me here today at the Museum of Tolerance or Muslims in our network across this nation attending events like this to express the simple message that we are here for American Jewish brothers and sisters during this painful time. We're here for you. But it's going to take more than just calling yourself an ally, because there isn't much of a price to pay to just take on that name. You got to show up when it counts. And so we will be in your home and be honored to be in your home, honored to be in the Museum of Tolerance, and we're going to welcome you to our home as well. I'm going to tell you a quick word about Muslim Coalition for America, just so you know who we are. I'm a leader and founder. My background is in national security and counterterrorism. I'm a major in the U.S. Army Reserve. And I founded Muslim Coalition for America because I represent the United States overseas in several countries as a counterterrorism official. And coming back home, it occurred to me that we can't allow this country to become the Middle East. This is not the Middle East. So our network of Muslims across this nation, we hold American Jews as our own family. And that's what we're here to express to you today. We have the most prominent coalition of national leaders behind our organization than any other Muslim organization in this country's history. Just to name a few, and it's bipartisan. Senator Joseph Lieberman, former Obama and Clinton administration White House senior level officials, but also Republican members of Congress, business leaders, including the owner of the LA Dodgers since we're in LA, a member of our advisory board, and we're about impact, not just speaking. So we have implemented unprecedented scale impact missions for vulnerable communities, including the homeless, in partnership with NBA teams, in partnership with the LA Dodgers here in this city, and we're national. And we represent change. One of the changes that we represent is simple. We represent Muslims in this nation who are for the destruction of Hamas and every terrorist organization in the world. And I don't need to explain to this sophisticated crowd that it's Muslims themselves who are the victims of these terrorist networks first and foremost. I'm going to tell you quickly also an America that we are not willing to accept. We're not willing to accept an America where we see an increase of 400+% hate incidents against American Jews, and we stand by and do nothing about it. That's not an America we're willing to accept. We're not willing to accept an America where every Jewish facility in the United States has the type of security that I'm used to when I used to work at the Defense Department. Former Navy SEALs, former Special Forces, outside, bulletproof glass on the first floor, fireproof material. I ask this question not because I'm laying an indictment on our nation here. I love this country. But is that even religious freedom? Isn't security the most central feature of religious freedom? Being able to just have physical safety to exercise your religion. And so that's an America that we're not willing to accept, and we're here to change that with you together. Lastly, I want to say this. You're starting to see the change, and you'll see it across this nation. You'll start to see Muslim Coalition for America on TV. I know Fox News and CNN don't like to cover things like this, but you'll start to see us more on the news, and we will be there together with you to make sure that never again is a reality. Thank you.
God bless you, my dear friend. We're now pivoting to the part of the program, the real reason that we're here. We're going to be hearing in a few minutes from a Holocaust survivor, and then we'll be hearing from the survivor of October 7th and from a family member whose family was, like so many other Israeli families, devastated by the events. Allow me a few words. Don't be worried about the timer. That's not amount of time for my speech. I'll be brief. But it's a reminder to each of us that for the hostages, time is running out. And so as we enter this part of the program, we want, as if we need it, but another reminder of why we're really here. 40 years ago, Arthur Butz, an engineering professor at Northwestern University, appeared on CNN to defend a book he published denying the Nazi Holocaust. The host showed footage of the Nazis that had been taken by the Nazis themselves and demanded, how could you stand there today after seeing all the evidence and deny Jews were ever murdered at Auschwitz? Because I'm more comfortable not believing there were gas chambers. Butz rebutted. Friends, there are two types of Holocaust deniers. Those who deny it because it disturbs their worldview, and those like the Ayatollah Khomeini who want to fulfill Hitler's genocidal vision. Friends, we're here today on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, confronted by another group of deniers of the unspeakable atrocities of October 7th. Here too, there are two types of deniers: the do-nothings at the International Red Cross, the leaders of the UN, from Secretary General Guterres to special rapporteurs to the UN Human Rights Council, who mumble, yes, it was bad, but you must understand Hamas's viewpoint, who cannot bring themselves to deal with the true implications of that pogrom. And then there are other deniers, those from Hamas to Islamic Jihad to the Iranian regime, who have the chutzpah to deny the October 7th targeted mass murders of Jews they planned and carried out. they charge Israel with genocide, but given the opportunity, they would eradicate the Jewish people forever. On this day of Holocaust commemoration, surprise, the Hague's initial decision, the Court of Justice chose to weigh in on what is going on in Israel and Gaza. The ICJ should have instructed the Hamas terrorists to end this war today by laying down its arms. It should have put the terrorists on notice that it is they who soon will be standing before the bar of justice. It's the ICJ that should have sanctioned South Africa for hosting wanted terrorists, not allowing the court to be used by terrorist supporters and apologists. Instead, the ICJ lectured Israel that it needs to avoid a possible genocide. We know that Israel has taken unprecedented measures to limit civilian casualties, but terrorist Hamas has interwoven its 500-mile underground military complex under Gaza's civilians, mosques, schools, and homes. But it is the Jewish state, not the Palestinian terrorists, who remain in the crosshairs of politicized international justice. Every day since the establishment of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, we have sought to protect memory whose foundations are under assault. Today, in the presence of our friends and allies, the diplomats from 20 nations, we're here to demand that the world refocus its attention on the fate of innocent Jewish live Jews, not only to cry over the murder of 6 million dead Jews. Today, we're going to hear courageous voices, a survivor from the Shoah and survivors of the October 7th massacre, who pierce the veil of silence, apathy, and hypocrisy to demand that our sisters and brothers be immediately released. Today, on International Holocaust Memorial Day, we honor the dead by remembering the living. It is now a distinct privilege and pleasure to ask survivor Gabriella Karin to share her very personal views on this important day. Gabriella, if you can join us.
For so many members of my family, my community, for 6 million of my fellow European Jews, January 27, 1945, the day Soviet troops entered Auschwitz-Birkenau, came too late. The liberation of Dachau, of Bergen-Belsen, of Buchenwald, of Mauthausen came too late. But where we left this to deal with our nightmares and our newfound freedom was hope. Hope that the world would learn from our tragedies. Hope that our physical and psychic scars would somehow heal. Hope that somehow the Jewish people would recover from the scourge of genocide. Hope that we Jews would be able to control our destiny. Hope against hope that somehow a Jewish state would someday become a reality, a country that could offer refuge and safety for any endangered Jew that would beckon home Jews from every corner of the planet and translate 1,900 years of dreams and prayers into a new reality, building new dreams on the greatest of the distant past and the ashes of the immediate past. Hope that we young survivors would have the muscle and fortitude to live again, to love again, to dream again. Many of survivors did live long enough to live again, to love again, and be loved again. We brought children into the world and lived long enough to see grandchildren and more. We lived long enough to see the state and people of Israel arise from the sand dunes and rock-filled fields, overcome wars, fulfilling the Zionist dream of Shivat Zion, return to Zion, from Europe, from Maghreb, to South Africa, from Buenos Aires to Brisbane. And after decades of silent struggle, we survivors found our collective voice inspired by giants like Simon Wiesenthal and Elie Wiesel. And we devoted our efforts to reach our literally to millions of young people, to give a meaning to never again. And yes, we embrace January 27 as the day the world paused to remember our suffering and martyrdom at the hands of Nazi beasts. This year too, the United Nations, just 3 hours ago, convened a memorial program to remember the victims. But this year, things are different. I do not want to stand next to the Secretary General of the United Nations, next to the reporters and NGOs devoted to protecting women and girls, or next to the head of the International Red Cross, because they all, without fail, abandoned living Jews. Mr. Secretary General, please understand, if you don't show respect and empathy for live Jews, I don't need you to take a moment of silence for them. So I am here at our Simon Wiesenthal Center to tell survivors of the Nova concert, to the families who still don't know the fate of their loved ones, to the hundreds of families whose husbands, brothers, sons, and daughters gave their lives to destroy today genociders, Hamas. Please, please, take this message home to every Jewish home, here and in Israel, that we survivors of the Shoah, who never thought we would be confronting again such a hate, such indifference, such silence. We are here for you, our dear survivor of Nova. Am Israel Chai.
We're now going to ask Aya Mizrahi to come to the podium and share some photos of how the October 7th massacre changed her family. Aya.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, my presentation is off script. I'm very emotional, so please excuse me if I sound very nervous, because I am. Never again. October 7th for my family was again. In this photo is my entire extended family from Kibbutz Kfar Aza. And this photo was taken in July at my son's bar mitzvah in Jerusalem. And it was the last time our entire family was together. In this photo, everyone is impacted by October 7th. Some people here have been murdered. Some have been kidnapped. Most of them are homeless. And we all suffer from deep trauma and PTSD. Next slide. I'm going to focus my short presentation on one part of our family who was mostly impacted by October 7th. In this photo, you see my cousin Nadav in the red sweatshirt, his wife Chen by his side, and his 4 children. On October 7th, terrorists invaded their home while they were sheltering in place. Next photo. These are photos taken by the IDF in our home. The big picture here with all the bullets is a metal door that was supposed to protect them from the outside in their adjacent laundry room. The terrorists shot that door down and caused havoc in the home, as you can see in the photos, while the family was sheltering in place. In the shelter was my cousin Nadav, who was an Ironman athlete and CFO of a large conglomerate corporation. He was recovering from a cycling accident and was still on crutches, and his wife and his daughters and sons were with him. While they were holding on to the door and praying for God and for the IDF to come and save them, the terrorists caused havoc in the household. They eventually blew up the door. They shot him 3 times in the chest. His wife and children were huddled in the corner. At some point, his daughter, one of his daughters young, started hyperventilating, and she was very nervous, and she went and kneeled next to her father to help him. She was making too much noise. She was overwhelmed. She was crying. And so the terrorists shot her in the face. Shooting women in the face is a common theme of World War II and of the massacre of October 7th. I will share a very brief video of the home that the IDF took when they eventually got into the house to retrieve the bodies of my cousin and his daughter. Video, please. This is their front porch. It's a beautiful home. You can see his bicycle strewn apart. Everything was just gunshots everywhere. They just made a mess and put all their personal belongings depersonalizing and stripping people from their identity and from their privacy and from the safety and peaceful of their home was a common theme in this kibbutz and all over the South. When this video progresses, you will see a room where there is a mattress against the wall. That is where they took shelter in place. And this is the laundry room. You can see the blood on the floor. This is where they entered the house. And this was when some of the shooting happened for my cousin and his daughter. I recently went back and I toured the home myself with my family members. And it was one of the most difficult and horrific experiences of my life to walk with them and relive those moments. Next, please. And so, my cousin was murdered and so was his daughter, and no one knew what happened to Chen and the children. It took a week for the IDF to have confirmation from intelligence forces in the Gaza Strip, confirming that they were indeed kidnapped. And so my family became a poster, just like many families in Israel. And the campaign for their release started. On October 9th, we were already interviewing and shouting and campaigning for their release. We marched, we interviewed, we baked challahs, and we prayed. Once it was confirmed that they were indeed kidnapped, we had the fortitude and the peace of mind to bury Nadav and his daughter. We were holding off for the funeral because we weren't sure at the time if we were going to do a funeral for 2 or a funeral for 6. Many families had to wait an agonizing week to 10 days to find out what happened to their loved ones, if they were kidnapped or if they were in a pile somewhere, unidentified. Piles of bodies were everywhere, just like in World War II. Next. And so we buried Nadav and his beautiful daughter in a double funeral attended by thousands. She was an IDF soldier and she was home visiting for Sukkot, and she was just shy of her 20th birthday. And so everyone from the IDF, all her friends and all her partners arrived. People from all over the world came to pay their respect for my beautiful first cousin who died trying to defend his family in the sanctity of his own home. His own home. Next. And so we knew that Chen and Adam and Valental, their ages are below their photos, were held in Gaza. They were released on November 26th, day after Thanksgiving. We were all glued to the TV watching their release. We now know that they spent 51 days of hell in Gaza. They were deprived food, they were deprived water, they were shuffled around by their captors from apartment to apartment. They were dehumanized. They gave them Muslim names, and they wouldn't talk to them unless they answered to their Muslim names. When they were transported from apartment to apartment, they made my cousin and her daughter wear a hijab. They had to role play as a Muslim family. If they were sad or recluse, they would deprive them of food and water. They accompanied them to the bathroom, and they watched them 24/7. There was someone at their side, guns at hand, 24/7 for 51 days. Next. I'm going to share with you the happy moment of our family's story, when they were finally released, and the boys are on the IDF plane. And God bless Israel and the IDF that sent their finest women pilots and women soldiers to comfort those who were coming back from captivity. And the finest soldiers that you will ever see, you can see how the boys were smiling. Chen said that the minute she saw the IDF soldiers at the border, the weight of the world fell off her shoulders. She finally felt she was safe, that she could give her children to someone else, and now she will be taken care of. She knew she lost her husband. She knew she lost her daughter. but there was great relief to know that they're coming back to Israel. So this is the reunion at the hospital. As you can see, it is a very different family photo. They're thin, they're weak, and they're currently dealing with some very severe emotional and psychological trauma. You have to understand that my uncle, Gogo, and my aunt Varda, they're from a family of Holocaust survivors. We lost 14 members in Bergen-Belsen. And so loss is not something that is something that we know really well. We were very lucky that we got them back, but our family campaign for the release of the remaining hostages still goes on. Agar and her mom Chen, a week before they were released, were moved from the apartment to the tunnels. In the tunnels, they encountered and met up with 6 female kidnappees. I cannot tell you their names for obvious security reasons. They vowed and they promised to campaign for them and to make sure the world knows and doesn't forget them in the tunnels so they can also go back home. They give chilling accounts of what they saw in the tunnels. I want to end my closing remarks with a video that I shot 3 weeks ago in Israel, where Chen gives testimony of what she observed in the tunnels, and you can hear it from her voice firsthand. I am a proud Israeli citizen. I served in the IDF. I'm a proud American citizen. I've been here for 30 years, and I never thought in any time that this is what my country would be facing with. This is what I'd be facing with as a proud Jewish mother and a community member here in the U.S. We must never forget what happened then. We must never forget what happened to us now. And they all need to come back home now. Thank you.
בעצם לשבוע, וחצי לפני שהשתחרר. זו הייתה ילדה די ארוכה, אותה נערה. ובנות היו פצועות פיזית, פצועות מורכבות, איברים שנקטעו. חושבת את עצמה, מישהי פצועה ביד ימין ניסה הכל ביד שמאל. שתבינו כאילו את הכוחות של הבנות האלה, עם כל הדברים הקשים שהם עברו, והלבד, והפציעות הפיזיות, ופגיעות מיניות, ולנסות לתפקד, ולהיות חזקות, ולעזור אחת לשנייה. ואם אחת נשמרת, אז השנייה מרימה אותה, ומישהי שמצמידים על האקדח לרקה, והוא נוגע בה ונשק אותה, הוא נוגע בה עם האצבעות שלו בכל מקום בגוף שלה. כאילו מנצל את הרגע הכי פגוע, הכי חלש, וכאילו הוא מרגיע אותה, ועוד בשבי שאתה בעמדת כוח עליה, ואתה שולט בה. ועם האופן שחיללו את הגוף שלנו ואת הנפש שלנו, אנחנו לא יודעות אם אנחנו נצליח להתמודד. חייבים לשחרר אותם כמה שיותר מהר, את כולם.
Thank you, Talia. And earlier today, I think right on cue with what happened in The Hague, Hamas released the video of 3 of the Israeli women captives. And according to Israeli intelligence, they confirmed that that video was done about 5 days ago. It's now my privilege to ask Danielle Sassi for her first-person testimony of surviving the Nova massacre. It shall be accompanied with Maor Perez and Roe Borstein. Danielle, Maor, and Roe, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Danielle. This is my husband, Maor. This is Rory, our friend, and my cousin Lee Stassi, who was able to make it last minute today. All four of us are survivors of the October 7th massacre. On October 7th, we were all visiting from Los Angeles. We went to Israel for the holidays. We were scheduled to leave Israel October 9th. And we were all invited to go to the music festival. We went, the three of us. He went along with his friends, but my father came with us, Avi Stassi, our good friend Alex from Canada, our cousin Nisan, who was 4 months pregnant, and her husband Lidur. The seven of us attended the festival. We had a great time, beautiful young people. It's what you go to Israel for, to have, the best time of your life. And at around 6:30 in the morning, me being the LA girl that I am, I told my group of people, look up in the sky, there are fireworks. Soon enough, my husband, my dad, everyone became pale. Everyone started running. They called out Seva Adom on the speakers of the music festival. And we started walking towards the car. We already had all of our things gathered. I was supposed to take Ben, my 4-month-old baby, to the festival. And my mom decided to watch him for me really last minute. Friday night, she said, just make sure you're home by the morning. I want to go to the beach Saturday. I said, okay. So we really had our keys, our stuff, our bags, and we ran to the car. My dad was driving. He made a left turn out of the party. Lee mentioned to my dad that she remembered that there was a shelter. And what a shelter is on the middle of the road is actually a really tiny bus stop made for 11 people. It's concrete, there's no door, so anyone can enter and exit at any point. When we arrived there at around 7 a.m., there's just a lot of stress and chaos, people coming in, coming out, rumors that terrorists are flooding the streets, and we're at a festival and a lot of young people. My dad said, don't worry, there's no way that there are terrorists in the street, like we're fine. And even if there are, they're about 5, 10, the soldiers will get them. So for 45 minutes, I'm texting all my sisters back here in Los Angeles, begging that I want to leave. And they're telling me that I can't leave because they're watching the news and we're about to be attacked. Soon enough, a gentleman walked into it's called the Megunit, it's a forfeited bus stop. He was shot in the leg. And at that point, we were now known for sure that the terrorists are near and they're coming by. My dad shoved us inside the Megunit. He told me, Lee, and my husband, told me, if you want to get to your son, stand to the corner, because the terrorists will come and they'll shoot, and they won't shoot to the And that's exactly where the three of us stood. Soon enough, they came, they were shooting, they threw grenades, they came in, they were shooting more, they shot me in the leg. Smoke bombs, and then I'm not sure if we fainted, if we just forgot that it was quiet, there was some air. Everyone's dead around us. I called out for my dad to let him know that I was shot. And then when he didn't reply, I just knew he was no longer with us. And at that point, I just went into full fight mode. I went silent. I told everyone in the Migunit to hide underneath the bodies. There were about 30 of us in there, 35. Everyone was hiding underneath. We were all playing dead. We used our blood to put it on our face. And we were there for 7 hours until a father, one of the girls that was with us in there, her father, Moti Ezra, he came with his son in a Dodge Ram truck and literally picked us up. The IDF wasn't able to make it. The police wasn't able to make it. There were too many of the terrorists along us. For 7 hours, we were terrorized. They just kept coming in and out. We were on the corner of Be'eri. It's a kibbutz that was really hit by them. So we just, we survived. 9 of us out of 35 walked out of there alive. Every day I play in my head, what is the purpose that we stayed alive? And I think it's just to remind everyone else of today's generation that we have to stay together and united and as one. We have to, because we only have one country, and it's smaller than New Jersey, so we really have to fight for it. We've got nowhere else to go. And that is our story. We are here. I'm sorry. I forgot to mention, out of the 7 of us, 3 of us only survived. My cousin Isan, her husband, Alex, and my father were murdered on October 7th. And we just have to fight for them. So, and bring our hostages back home as well. Thank you.
I'd like to call upon my colleague, Rabbi Meir May, to join me. Rabbi May will chant the Kel Maleh Rachamim prayer for the 6 million, and I will then read a brief prayer specifically focused on the hostages. Rabbi May, please rise. El Moleh Rachamim Shochen Amiromim Amitzvei Menachol Echono Al Kanfei HaShechino Temalos Kedoshim u'todim, Kezoarot yamazirim, Estishmos hakedoshim ve'hatehorim, Shehom mitzvot ושנהרגו, ושנשחטו, ושנשרפו, ושנתקיעו, ושנחנקו, על קידוש השם, על ידי התורים הנאצים יימח שמו וזכרו. בעבור שבלי נדר אתן צדקו, יד הספורס נשמותיהם, בגני עדן מנוחסום, לכן בעל הרחמים יסתיבם, בססר כנפו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחל אסום, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel, we call out to you with fervent plea and prayer to bless and protect the civilian men, women, and children brutally kidnapped by Hamas and held captive in Gaza, along with the members of the Israel's defense forces missing in action or held captive. May it be your will speedily and soon to bring them out from darkness and the shadow of death. May the Holy One, blessed be He, break their bonds, deliver them from their distress, and release them swiftly back to loving embrace of their dear ones. Do all that must be done so that relief, rescue, and long life may be their lot of every one of the soldiers and civilians who've been taken hostage. Act on their behalf, Lord. Take up their cause without delay so that you fulfill through your verse from Isaiah, those redeemed by the Lord will return. They will enter Zion with singing, and everlasting joy will crown their heads. Gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. So may it be your will, and let us say Amen. Please be seated and call upon Jim Berg to conclude the program.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you to our speakers, to Rabbi Cooper, Rabbi May, and speakers for sharing such a personal part of themselves with us. We're better for having been in their presence. Before we conclude, we have an opportunity to celebrate a special moment. And we're people of hope and perseverance, and I can't think of a better way than to do it this way. So if you could join me in wishing Auschwitz survivor Bill Friedman a happy birthday, as today he is celebrating his 100th birthday. Right here in the front row.
Day to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Bill, happy birthday to you. Yes. Amazing. We now invite our Holocaust and Nova survivors to depart first so they can lead us out to the Memorial Plaza, where every one of you will be invited to light a candle in their honor and in memory for all those that we've lost, for those who have survived, and our communal commitment to never, ever, more now than ever, forget. Thank you, everybody.